We are in the middle of a global health crisis. We are living in extraordinary times, and extraordinary times call for extraordinary measures. I note that last night that President Biden released a statement announcing his administration's support for waiving intellectual property rights for COVID vaccines. Across the globe, it is quite obvious that not vaccinating the globe in its entirety as expeditiously as possible is likely to increase the likelihood of further variants, resistance to existing vaccines, and ultimately prolong the length of the pandemic. And look, I'm sorry to repeat what earlier speakers have obviously raised, but at the same time, I think in light of last night's announcement, this topic needs to be discussed at greater length. And I note the Taoiseach's comments about the incapacity or the ability or inability of certain countries to manufacture vaccines in the global south, but at the same time there are large nations there that would have the capacity to do it, and I think it's something that the government needs to examine again.
Thank you, Deputy Taoiseach.
Thanks very much, Deputy. As I think I mentioned earlier, I think the announcement from the US is very significant and does and has caused the EU and other developed countries to reassess its position on this matter. This pandemic is raging across the world. There are records being broken every day in terms of the number of new cases. And if we're going to get the virus under control, we need to get it under control everywhere. That means vaccinating everyone in the world and doing what we did to polio and smallpox when it comes to COVID. If we don't do that, the virus could be re-imported into the West and variants will be developed that could become resistant to vaccines. But as I think I mentioned earlier, just giving somebody the recipe isn't enough. If they don't have the kitchen, if they don't have the kitchen skills, if they don't have the ingredients, it won't make a practical difference in terms of the production of the vaccines. And that's why it makes sense to have a comprehensive agreement, ideally with the companies on board, because they're the ones with the know-how, ideally with the manufacturers of the materials on board as well. And that's the approach that's going to be taken in WTO.
Thank you.